Welcome friends to another r/AmITheJerk video. If you're here watching this video, you're already not a jerk, but you'd especially not be a jerk if you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Commercial Object 941. Am I the jerk for refusing to change one of my students' diapers outside of school hours? Hi everyone, I, 20-year-old female, work full-time at a daycare with younger preschoolers, a few of whom are still in diapers. The other day, I was at a huge barbecue with some friends from high school, and the friends of their parents were also there. I ran into one of my preschoolers and her mom and chatted with her for a little while. After a few minutes, the mom said that her kid's diaper was dirty and asked if I could change it. I thought she was joking, so I laughed and made a joke back about how I only change diapers when I'm on the clock. Her friends that she was sitting with all kind of laughed awkwardly, but she looked at me dead serious and said, "No, really, I don't change diapers." I felt really awkward but said, "No, sorry," and went to walk away, but then she started explaining to me that her husband is the only one who changes diapers because she's a germaphobe and has a emetophobia, fear of throwing up. And she's only done it a few times when she absolutely had to, and she always threw up after, which apparently she has a crippling fear of doing. I felt that regardless of the circumstances, it was inappropriate for her to ask me this, so I said no again. She seemed really shocked by this and continued to explain how much she hates changing diapers and how her husband wasn't there so he couldn't help. I just told her that I don't like changing them either, and I think it's inappropriate for her to keep pushing this when I've already told her no. She then said, "It's devastating to me to learn my daughter's favorite teacher has so little empathy." And after that, I just walked away. A few minutes later, I saw her putting the kid in the car and leaving, so I assumed she went to wherever her husband was to have him do it. I texted my boss to tell her what happened because I'm about to go on vacation and I assumed that the mother would say something to her about it. My boss just told me that I could tell her about it in more detail when I get back, and she'd let me know if the mom said anything to her, but it seemed like I was in the right in saying no. I don't think I'm the jerk in this situation. I'm not her employee, and even if I was, I still think that's not something you should ask someone to do outside of work hours. I don't know this mom well, we rarely talk at pickup or drop off, and she was sitting at a table of her friends who I presume know about her situation and would have been better people to ask for help. I think if she would rather let her kid sit in a dirty diaper for the car ride home instead of changing it herself, she shouldn't be going places without her husband. The only part of this that makes me feel like a little bit like a jerk is the fact that the kid had to sit in their own poop for the car ride home. I just assumed that once I left, she would either ask one of the friends or suck it up and do it herself. So, am I the jerk? Personally, I feel like OP is definitely not the jerk here. It just doesn't seem like the right moment at all to be asking that. I don't know, what do you guys think? Considering it's the kid's preschool teacher who presumably changes their diapers when they're at school, if they happen to meet up at a get-together thing and they're there, is it wholly inappropriate for this mom to ask OP if they could change the kid's diapers? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is by a not MT sister. Am I the jerk for telling my pregnant sister to shut up about her gross pregnancy stuff and telling her we're not sisters? I'm 18 and my sister Amy is 22. I'm a girl too. I didn't meet her till I was 16 and didn't even know she existed. Dad cheated on my mom with Amy's mom, and I don't know the details, but she grew up in a different state than us and her mom and my dad cut contact. She found us 2 years ago and has basically forced herself into our lives. My mom passed away when I was 10, so she was gone by the time I found out about Amy, but that means I live with my dad. I don't know how Amy found us, but she's going to college in our town now and just keeps popping up. Dad's accepted her and is treating her like his daughter, which pisses me off because I'm his daughter. She's over for dinner all the time. She's going to come to my graduation. Dad told me to invite Amy or he wouldn't let me go to my own freaking graduation, and she acts all buddy-buddy with me. I don't want a sister. I don't have a big sister. Whatever. Anyway, Amy got pregnant and is constantly telling me gross stuff about her pregnancy. She's so bloated, her farts are so bad, she's constipated, she peed herself. I don't give a freak that it's the miracle of life, it's freaking gross. She was over at the house, and while Dad was cooking, I was watching TV with her, and she starts talking about it again. I told her to stop it and that it was gross to tell me that stuff. She got pouty and said, "But we're sisters, we're best friends and tell each other everything." I told her she's not my sister, not my best friend, she never would be, and to shut up about her stupid, nasty pregnancy stuff. She got all emotional and went to the kitchen and tattled to Daddy. He told me that that was a crappy thing to say, that she's my sister, and then he grounded me and took away my laptop and my PlayStation. Amy's acting like this is the end of the world, but I just told her the truth. Am I the jerk? I think OP's feelings are valid, and I don't think OP's necessarily the jerk. I would say that the way they handled things could probably have been done better. Like, honesty is a good policy, but like, you don't have to be an absolute, well, jerk when delivering that news. Overall though, I think OP's valid in what they did and said, but I do feel like this is a very messy thing that will be ongoing probably for a while. This next story is by Yes This Nonsense. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter if she continues to try to crush my son's dreams, she's going to be homeless? My younger son Sam, 16, is interested in being a video game developer like his cousin Mike, 26. Mike has been great at sending my son little exercises and programs. Sam's autistic with ADHD, and I think it's sweet how Mike and his wife will send him the latest information on video game design and are really supportive. They've talked to him about several for-profit universities, knowing my son isn't the best traditional student. They also send me information about scholarships that can help with the cost. My daughter Sarah, 24, just moved back home. I get she's having a rough time and lost her job, and moving back home with us was a blow. She's been bad-mouthing Mike and his wife, saying they aren't that smart for going to a for-profit university, and she hopes they enjoy dying in student loan debt. She told Sam that if he can't cut it in high school and has to go to a university that he has to pay to get his degree for, then it's worthless. She's been saying horrible things to Sam that I didn't even know about. Sam goes into a meltdown and deletes this game he's been working on for months, saying he's too stupid to be a game designer and he doesn't want to die in debt. I get a feeling at where this is coming from, and I confronted my daughter and told her if she ever says anything like that to Sam again, she can move out and be homeless for all I care. I'm not tolerating her toxic BS. My daughter cried to her mom and went to cry in her room about what a terrible father I am, but I'm not going to let her insecurities be pushed on my son. I think OP is definitely not the jerk. You see this kid, your own brother, that has a passion they're constantly working on, and they go and they poo-poo all over it and put them down and say that they're not going to amount to anything and kill their self-esteem? It takes an awful kind of person to do something like that. This next story is by AITA Wedding Throwaway. Am I the jerk for asking my fiance to pick a new best man? So to keep things short, my fiance, male 29, who I'll call Ryan, and I, female 28, are getting married next year, and it's been a lot of planning on our end to get everything ready. Ultimately, I want things to go smoothly and without a hitch, but Ryan's choice of best man is something I've asked him to reconsider. His best man is more of a best woman, as she's male to female, 25, trans. I'll call her Sky. And before people go there, I have nothing against her for being trans, and overall no issue with that. Sky and Ryan have been friends for nearly 7 years now, but she's only been out for the past year, and even then, she's only out to her group of friends, her parents, and myself. Initially, his choice to have her stand in our wedding party had me a bit worried, especially because Ryan had gone behind my back to tell her that she could wear a dress. Although I later found out that she probably won't wear one, as she's not ready to come out to his and my family, nor does she think she'll be ready by then. My issue comes from two possibilities that both aren't ideal. The first issue is that if she continues to move so slowly in her transition, she'll still be very much so a guy in appearance, which will cause an issue in the future when people ask who's with Ryan in all these photos, as she'll no longer be that person. The other possible issue is that if she does start to transition but isn't fully passable, I'll have to explain it to my family, who aren't always the most accepting, and I'd rather not have all of us go through that. So with these reasons, I've asked him to request that he not have her in the wedding party and instead pick one of his other friends or my brother to be his best man. This conversation caused a bit of a fight though, as he's unwilling to change her out, and he says that it's just something we'll have to deal with. I've still brought it up on occasion for him to consider, but it's led to a fight every time. So, am I the jerk for just wanting to protect Sky? OP is definitely the jerk, and I knew it right at that very last line where OP said, "So am I the jerk for just wanting to protect Sky?" Protect Sky? OP was the one saying that they didn't want to have to deal with explaining why somebody doesn't look passable to their family. That's all about protecting Sky, is it? To me, it just seemed like a bit of ranting about your own personal issues with the situation, and then at the very end kind of scrambling and saying, "I just want to protect them." Our next story is by RoccoK4091. Am I the jerk for not taking my biological mom's side? My parents divorced years ago, and the custody belonged to my mom. I'm 23 now, male, and sometimes still stay over at my dad's place for 1 or 2 nights. He had no problem with it, and neither did my mom. Eventually, he's remarried to a woman, and they had a pair of twins. 1 girl, 1 boy. They're quite cute and always stick to me. My dad said I could be a big brother figure to them, and as I've never had a sibling before, I enjoyed it more than anything. But I don't think my mom appreciated that. My dad's wife is a good person. She treated me like I'm her son every time I dropped in, and always told me that she wished her children and I would get along, even in the future. My mom's the opposite. I understand it must be hard for her to witness her ex-husband moved on faster than her, and even had children with another woman, but I don't think it's a reasonable explanation. She sometimes would tell me to not be too close to the twins. They irritated her, and she never wished for them to come to our house, and all the problems started because of them. There was more, but the majority of it was just too bad to talk about. I didn't really care about it because, as an adult, I expected her to know better than grown-ups' beefs had nothing to do with the children. So one day, I brought the twins to our house. I still stayed with my mom for a night, thinking that maybe if my mom got close to them, she would realize there's no necessary hating. In the middle, I got an urgent call, and before I went, I reassured my mom I'd be back in an hour, telling my twin siblings to behave well, and I'd take them to the park on the weekend if they did. It's around 10 p.m. when I got home. I was surprised to see my dad in front of our house. I thought he just passed by to see the kids, till he told me that it's my mom calling him to come and pick them up when we're supposed to have a night over. I opened the door, and immediately the twins, crying, ran towards me, and my mom was in full rage. I ushered my dad to take the kids away and asked my mom what happened. Apparently, the twins were annoying her constantly by asking her questions, telling her that they love their mom and my dad and wanted us to be a good family. My mom didn't like that, and she horrendously went off on them, saying that because of them, my dad never loved her anymore, and they were an eyesore to her. At this point, hearing this, I also don't get where she's coming from, because if they had loved each other enough, they wouldn't have filed for a divorce. I told her the kids had nothing to do with what her, my dad, and their mom had. She shouldn't have shouted and imposed what she didn't like about their mom on them and scared them off as well. My mom then yelled at me for not being understanding, taking that woman in my dad's side, and being her only son, I should have taken hers instead of them. She hid herself in her room, and no matter how I tried, she still refused to talk to me. It's been days. So, am I the jerk? While I feel like OP's intentions were good, I think they are the jerk for choosing themselves to invite the siblings over. This was definitely a situation where it was very clear that the mother was against that family, didn't want anything to do with them, had no relation to them, and therefore no interest in them. And OP was essentially trying to force her hand to get to know them, and then had something pop up and had to just dump them on her, full on outright. I would say at the very least, if you're gonna bring them over like that, at least be able to stay around for sure the entire time. Like, just picture it yourself. You divorce somebody and you had 1 kid with them, they go off, marry somebody else, have twins, your 1 kid loves them, hangs out with them, lives with them, and then your 1 kid tries to create a relationship with these twins that you have no interest in, your divorced husband's twins, and no relation to, and then, halfway through, they just dump them on you to babysit. Like, yeah, OP's definitely the jerk. This next story is by AITA. Am I the jerk for laughing hysterically and violently at everything my date said to embarrass him after he called my laugh appalling? I went on a blind date with a guy my friend recommended. She said she'd known him for a while and thought he was cute and worth my time. She said he had a good sense of humor, wasn't a crappy person, and that I would probably end up liking him. So off we went to a bar. It was a little fancy, but also loud enough for us to have to raise our voice and speak. We ordered some cocktails and food, and he joked about something. I laughed, and I admit I have a slightly loud laugh, and that I usually throw my head back and don't really try to stop it. I don't see why I should. He shushed me immediately and started looking around. No one was looking our way. He asked me to stop laughing so loudly and asked if my laugh was fake. I was a bit surprised by his question, but told him no, it was not. I shrugged it off as just one weird point, but the next time I laughed, he shushed me even louder. People looked at him shushing me instead of me laughing. It was irritating me now. He told me I laugh too much and he doesn't find that attractive. He asked me why I don't cover my mouth when I do and why I don't try to stifle it. He shushed me so many times that I'd had enough. I laughed maniacally at everything to embarrass him, and it worked. He looked like he wanted to die. I laughed even harder when he said he wanted to leave. I laughed while he left. Then, once he was gone, I paid for my drinks and left. He texted me saying I was embarrassing and weird, and I told him that if he can't handle a woman laughing normally, he shouldn't even attempt to go out on dates. Was I too much? I think OP is definitely not the jerk, and frankly, I don't get where this guy's coming from. If I were to be on a date and it seemed like I could do no wrong and I could make this person laugh to the point where they would tilt their head back and have like a full-on laugh, I feel like that would just make me feel really good, and I would enjoy being around somebody that I just like. I feel like I'm practically like a stand-up comedian just nailing it every time. Like I'm probably normally a stale piece of bread, but around this person, I'm the funniest thing that's ever happened. This next story is by SwiftDirt420. Would I be the jerk if I sent an extra can of Coke for my kid's friend at school? Background: my child, 11 years old, has a good friend at school who they've been friends with for several years, and they spend time together outside of school as well. The friend's parents are divorced, and the friend spends equal time with each parent. I know the dad, but don't know the mom. All the sleepovers and playdates we've had been coordinated when the friend's with the dad. The current scenario: my kid and their friend are part of a group at school, and they're having a party next week and can bring drinks to go along with their lunch. My kid asked if we could send an extra can of Coke for their friend because friend's mom doesn't allow or buy Cokes, and the party's taking place during a week friend will be at mom's house. Usually this is a no-brainer for me, but since I know the dad and know this rule does not apply at their house, I'm considering the request. So Redditors, would I be the jerk if I sent an extra can of Coke for my kid's friend, knowing that the parent they're staying with that week would not approve? I'm really conflicted here because it definitely is going against what the mom would allow and want to happen, but also the kid wants it and it's okay with the dad, so it's not like it's not something the kid's ever experienced or is like something the kid is ever uniformly conforming to. I would say OP's not the jerk because you just want the kid to have a good experience, right? I don't know, I'm definitely not a parent, so maybe I'm very in the wrong. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Our next story is by Just Know Mother-in-Law TA. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law this is her last strike and she won't get to meet her grandchild after she threatened to call CPS? I, 34-year-old male, am having a child with my wife, 30-year-old female, soon. Her mother is a Just Know mother-in-law. I know normally it's the daughter-in-laws who have to deal with crazy, overbearing mother-in-laws, but in this case, my parents are awesome. Wife agrees, and her mom is kind of a nightmare. My wife's been keeping things pretty low contact with her mom as she's been having a really difficult pregnancy, and her mom will not stop asking about when we're having the next one and stressing her out in general. The first one isn't even here yet. My wife suspects my mother-in-law is less interested as we're expecting a son and she wants a granddaughter to dress up, but my wife's been very clear there aren't going to be any more kids. This pregnancy's been very hard on my wife. She couldn't keep any food down the first 3 months. She ended up developing gestational diabetes. She's had constant morning sickness and been miserable. I don't blame her for not wanting to do it again. On top of that, our lifestyle is set up to comfortably raise one child. Previously, we were open to two, but my wife says with how her experience has been and everything else, she wants us to be done after this, and I agree. We saw our mom today when she came by for tea, and she again started getting on my wife about when we would be starting the next one, and how her mind must have changed now that we're in the home stretch. My wife very firmly said to her that it hadn't and that I would be getting a vasectomy in the next couple of months. So she needed to stop badgering us. Her mom freaked out and started saying that we're abusing our child by not giving him a sibling, and that she was going to call CPS on us. I know this is ridiculous, and CPS obviously wouldn't do anything from a report of a dangerous only child situation, but the principle made my blood boil. I told her this was one strike out of one, and if she ever threatened to call CPS again, unless there was actual danger or neglect, she won't get to meet him, and if she pulls that when he's born, she won't get to see him. She went off on me for being a jerk and stormed out. Her sister blew up my wife's phone berating her for letting me talk to her mom like that. Am I the jerk? I think OP is absolutely not the jerk and is honestly quite impressive. This mother-in-law wants to play games and put threats up and try to put their foot down, and OP's just brushing them to the side and saying, "We're not playing that game. You can be nice and be involved, or you can be an absolute jerk and never see your grandkid ever." Our next story is by Interesting Can 4785. Would I be the jerk if I went to my friend's birthday party instead of my girlfriend's? I'm 35-year-old male. My girlfriend, female, turned 25 yesterday, 3/24/22. I took her to a romantic dinner and we had a great time. She loved it. My best friend from high school is throwing a birthday party tonight, 3/25/22. A few weeks ago, my girlfriend's friends decided to throw her a party tonight as well. I had every intention of going until my buddy called me up to invite me to his party. I love my girlfriend, but I don't get along with her friends. I always feel excluded with them. Like they purposely start talking about stuff that I don't understand just so I won't be able to participate. I have a high school diploma and went to trade school. They're all in law school. They have different definitions of fun. Their idea of a party is this fancy dressing up cocktail party where I have to wear a tie or something all night, and they don't have any of the games I like. My buddy's the complete opposite. He's having a keg, a pong table set up, he lets us smoke in his house, the whole nine. I knew my girlfriend would be pissed, so I decided to take her out to dinner on her birthday to make up for me missing her party. When we got home, I asked her if she'd be cool with me going to my buddy's party. She actually got upset, telling me that I'd promised her I'd be there, that I'm her boyfriend and my presence matters. It doesn't. Her guests are there for her, not for me. I told her as much, and I told her that I took her out to dinner to celebrate her actual birthday, the actual special day. Tomorrow's not her birthday, it's just a party. She asked me if the only reason I wanted to go out was to compensate for not showing up tomorrow. I didn't want to fight or argue. I told her that if she really wanted me at her party, then I'd skip my buddies for her. She got this really sad look, which pissed me off because I didn't even do anything wrong. And I told her that I'll skip the party for her. She told me she was tired and asked me to leave. She didn't respond to any of my messages, but her friends have been posting passive-aggressive stuff on their Twitters about me specifically. Nothing by name, but one of them posted how she wishes her friends stopped dating immature losers. My girlfriend hasn't been answering her phone all morning, and it's making me feel like crap. I want to go to my buddy's party because, at least there, I won't be surrounded by people who hate me and think I'm a degenerate loser. Would I be the jerk? As painful as it seems to be for OP, yes, I think they would be the jerk if they did not show up at their girlfriend's party. I would say, in general, if you're exclusive with somebody, you're in a relationship, it's almost expected that you're going to go to their party over a friend's party. And not only that, but OP had promised in advance weeks ago that they were going to be there. Your buddy just recently popped up. Imagine how that makes your girlfriend feel. Like imagine if you had a birthday party planned that your friends were hosting and she said she'd be there weeks ago, and then one of her friends popped up with a party and they go, "Oh, I want to go with the girls." It'd feel like crap, right? Our next story is by According While 6187. Am I the jerk for being mad at my daughter for telling her boyfriend stuff? I, 69-year-old female, had my daughter, 32-year-old female, and her boyfriend, 29-year-old male, over for dinner the other night. Currently, my daughter lives very close by me, but she's getting ready to move in with her boyfriend in about a month, and she'll be about an hour away from me. A couple weeks ago, I had asked my daughter a couple questions. First, if her boyfriend will be okay with her lack of cleanliness of her home when they live together. In my opinion, she doesn't clean enough, and if she'll start dressing up more during the day once she lives with him. She works from home. My daughter was already here when her boyfriend got here. When he gave her a hug, he said, "What, no ball gown?" And she just laughed. I thought that was a weird comment, but I thought maybe it was an inside joke between the two of them or something. Later on, he said something to her like, "Man, I'm so happy that you're cleaner than me," with a quick glance in my direction. That's when it clicked that she must have told him what I said. After he left, I confronted my daughter about it, and she willingly admitted that she did tell him. I asked why she would think it was okay to tell him our private conversations, and she said, "I would never tell him something about you personally because that's no one's business but yours. But when you made those comments, you not only obviously insulted me, but you insulted him by insinuating that he's a shallow enough person to care about that kind of stuff. So yes, I told him what you said." Then she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Mom, he's my number one now. He's my partner." And I just said, "Well, obviously my feelings don't matter anymore." And I asked her to leave. We haven't spoken since. Am I the jerk? Your daughter is 32 years old. They're a little old to be going down the checklist of well, when you move in with your boyfriend, are you gonna start dressing up more during the day? Are you gonna be cleanly when you live there? I don't mean to make it weird, but I feel like if anybody moved in with their partner, the amount of clothes they're wearing probably is not going to be a concern. Just saying. Just stop being so condescending to your 32-year-old daughter and their boyfriend. This next story is by Freaking Problem. Am I the jerk for telling the annoying horse girl from my class that what she ate was horse meat? It wasn't. Basically, it was International Day at my 16-year-old female school a few days ago. This girl from my class, Beatrice, is a horse girl. She loves horses, is an equestrian, I don't know if I used the word right, and even owns a horse. Throughout the entirety of the International Day event, Beatrice was rude and disrespectful to anyone whose food didn't look aesthetic. She went to the Turkish table, I was in charge of it, and shot a disgusted look at the menemen, which is basically scrambled eggs but better. She straight up asked me if someone threw up in the pot, then walked away without even trying it. After that, Beatrice headed to the Vietnamese table and insulted the smelly food, and was just plain rude and disrespectful again. Everyone was kind of done with her at this point. Some people even talked about asking for her to be removed from the event. This is where I might be the jerk. After insulting every non-aesthetic table, Beatrice made her way to the Kazakh table. They were serving beshbarmak, which is honestly one of the best foods to have ever been made, and once again insulted it. My best friend was actually in charge of the Kazakh table and told her to at least try a bite before she judged her country's food. If you don't know, beshbarmak is traditionally made from horse meat. My friend replaced the horse with a mixture of lamb and beef since horse meat is hard to find in Brazil where we live. I've tried beshbarmak once, and honestly, I don't care that it has horse in it. It's absolutely delicious and I love it a lot. Apparently, so did Beatrice. My friend and I waited until Beatrice finished her serving of the beshbarmak and told her, "You know that's made from horse meat, right?" Beatrice started crying and left the event, as far as I know. Apparently, my friend's parents got an email from Beatrice's parents that same night, shaming them for including horse in a dish. Her and her family apparently laughed about it, and my friend even forwarded me the email. Basically, they're demanding an apology from me and my friend. Am I the jerk? Should we even apologize? So, I completely understand Beatrice is a lot to take in. You don't like them, and they were going around being a total jerk, putting down all of these international food stands. That said, it doesn't invalidate what you did. You were still a jerk for lying to this girl, who very openly loves horses, that what they consumed was both something that would horrify them and also not what you're claiming it was that they ate anyways. Needless to say, I think OP's the jerk. And our final story of the day is by Old Conference 6522. Am I the jerk for telling my husband his friends can't come over anymore? I work a full-time job at the dispatch. My work schedule is regularly changing, and I've been working the night shift. My husband works part-time and has many days off. He asks me if it's okay if he has friends over, and I say it's fine as long as he makes sure the house is clean before they come. He agrees to this but never actually cleans. The other day I got home at 3 in the morning and he's up playing video games and the house has literal garbage everywhere and the dishes aren't done. I asked if the friend was still there and he said no, friend left hours ago. I'm upset that he didn't hold his end of the deal, but don't push it. The next day, he asked me to wash the dishes so he and friend could make dinner, and I said no. I work all night, and he made a deal to clean to have his friends over. One of his friends told me that women are supposed to do the housekeeping, and it was up to me to make sure the house was clean for husband. I told husband he can't have anyone over until the house is clean. Granted, he's an adult and I work late, so I wouldn't even know if a friend was there or not, but he still got upset that I won't even help him. He says that I should help him because the neglect has made dishes and trash pile up, and he can't do it on his own. I pointed out that if he did it every time he had a friend over, then it wouldn't be an issue at all, and he called me a jerk. So, am I really the jerk here? I think OP is definitely not the jerk. Their husband is not holding up a promise that they made, and their friends are incredibly sexist. And also, the husband is very lazy. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.